Hi again, and welcome to Vancouver Island University's International Education Department, and we're English Language Support, and we're doing some reading and annotating online tutorials. And this is Reading and Annotating Part 2, and the topic is how do you annotate an article and write a summary? First, though, we're just going to do a quick review of Reading and Annotating Part 1, in which we established that at VIU, the number one assignment seems to be summarizing. So here, you need summarizing skills. They're ubiquitous or widespread in terms of assignments. Also, in the first little tutorial, we established that summaries are shorter than the original text, and definitely shorter than paraphrasing. And this leads to a problem, because you can't paraphrase an article into a summary, because there's nothing in an article or chapter that can be paraphrased into a summary. Consequently, you have to annotate to write a summary. And annotating and summarizing skills are essential to understand and remember readings, because you actually have to engage with the text and put it into your own words, and this really develops some kind of knowledge. And if you have knowledge from the readings, then before your exams or future courses, there's less rereading of information because it's become your knowledge. And the good news is, of course, acquiring knowledge at university will be essential for your job. So if you're not engaging with readings, then you're probably not capturing what you need. Now then, this workshop objectives are, first, we're going to take a look at the article online and identify the author's purpose. Then remind ourselves of our purpose, the assignment's purpose. And in this case, we're going to be writing a summary of an article, which means we have to find the main ideas. So when we're reading and annotating the article's main ideas, we're going to be trying to put it into our own words and not relying too much on what the author has written. This will also give you a better comprehension of the big picture, which is the most difficult thing for some students to get. And we're going to use the article's annotations that we're going to write. We won't be highlighting or underlining. We're going to be writing annotations. And then we're going to take those annotations, put them in an outline for our summary. But also today we'll show you quickly, when you're writing a summary, you need to have the correct first sentence components, and we'll go through that in this workshop too. Now, we're going to read the article. It's actually online. It's a Guardian article called Should University Students Use Wikipedia? And what we're going to do is first go through and try and discover what the author's purpose is, and of course at the same time we're keeping in mind our purpose. So to discover the author's purpose, the first thing to do is to try and find out what's the rhetorical, what's the text structure that the author used. You may have had comparison contrast structures. You may have had problem solution structures. Here I'm giving you a hint though, but we're probably going to be looking at an argument structure. And the way we're going to establish this is by looking at the title, the subtitle, the first paragraphs, and concluding paragraphs. And like I say, when we go through here, I'm just giving you a heads up that articles give both sides of an argument, not just one side. So the pros and cons and the advantages and disadvantages of Wiki hopefully will become clear as we go through. So as we're annotating, probably the things that we want to be writing, not highlighting, are the pros and cons of Wiki. Now let's go and take a look at this article online. Now it's going to be online, so it's going to be a bit quirky and glitchy, but bear with me here. Now let's see the title, Should University Students Use Wikipedia? And now the subtitle. Most academics look down on the open source encyclopedia, but does it really hinder students' studies? So if I look at this and I'm thinking, well, definitely there's an argument going on here. Students use Wikipedia, but academics don't want them to use it. There must be some cons associated to that, but students must be seeing some pros. And if I look at this too, look down means to you dislike something, you don't think it's good quality. And open source encyclopedia means, of course, anybody can contribute. Then if we come down and look at the first two paragraphs, let's go see what hints we can find here. Okay, definitely it's establishing that Wiki is extensively used by students more than any other social group. Even the website's owner and creator says it shouldn't be used for academic purposes, but the last sentence, students use it, and quite a bit when they're researching essays. So he's setting up the argument here. And then we'll find in the second paragraph, it's not really a thesis, but we'll find out there's two questions he's trying to answer. And of course the first part's just repetition, saying that academics don't want students to use it in their research. But then the author asks two questions. Why is the academic world so hostile to Wiki, and why do students find it so hard to stay away? So we're finding now that, okay, there's definitely two sides here. He's talking about why academics don't like it, but also what are some of the good points of the article. And we said we were going to read the last paragraph, and here this is interesting. This researcher says that one of Wiki's pros here is that the website comes from many different people, and that could make it less subjective, less opinion orientated, and more objective. It could actually be more factual, but it's not 100% sure. And if you read the end, there is a statement that says it's only good when the student is using critical thinking, keeping their head up, making sure they don't make any silly mistake. So now, when good readers want to understand and remember things from their article and write a summary, they use a synthesis, which means a combination, and they're combining three skills. The first skill is prioritizing, which really means what's important. And for us, we're trying to find out what are the pros and cons as we go through. Next is connecting. Now here, the connecting has many meanings, but in this case, I'm sure you've experienced Wiki and Wikipedia before in terms of what people say about it and using it. So you have to connect your ideas with the author's ideas to see if you agree or disagree. And we're also connecting the author's ideas to our assignment purpose, which we've now established we need to summarize the pros and cons. But also we use connecting right in the very beginning because we had knowledge that we connected with the article, and that was that the title and the subtitle, the first two paragraphs and the last paragraph, should give us a general idea of what this article is about before we start reading, because a prepared mind before reading will yield a much better result. Finally, and this is maybe the toughest part for some students, is transferring the author's words into your own words to express the main ideas. And this is very important because, in fact, if you patch write or copy too much of the article into your summary without expressing it in your own words, it can actually lead to your instructor's belief that you didn't understand or didn't totally understand and get the knowledge from the article because you weren't able to express it in your own words. So on this point here, I think it's important to remember that you do have support out there. So when you're reading articles and you're having trouble understanding or transferring what the author's saying into your own words, that there's help for you. There's help through English language support, and you know how to get in touch with us there. And there's also people in the Writing Center and the library that would be more than happy to help you with this. Now then, we're actually going to start to actually annotate the article now, and it's just going to take a second here as I work with this technology, but I'm going to go to the article and we're going to start annotating. And I'm just going to get this out of the way, and I'm going to go here, And this is the article I've put into a Word document. And let's go through now, considering we know what the author's purpose is, and we know what our purpose is. And we're going to try and combine those three skills that I talked about: prioritizing, connecting, and transferring. So in the first paragraph here, again, I know the author is giving us a general overview of what's coming, and even in the second paragraph, they're both intended to let us know why we're here and what the author's purpose was in writing this article. So then we start to prioritize. Well, what do we need to know here? What's important in the first paragraph? So you can see on the side here I've written that students are the biggest users of Wiki. Although not good for academic essays, many students use it for research. Now I'm going to put that into my outline later, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to use all of it. But now I've got the main idea of that paragraph. Then I go to the second paragraph here, and like I say, it is basically repeating what the other paragraph said, so I don't need to rewrite that academics distrust the service, because that's already been established. But he does actually want to know, or ask us, why would universities not want to have students use it for research, and also why do students use it anyway? So for me, those were the main points. I'm not quite sure how, in terms of priority, how much that will fit into our summary, but we can look at it when we look at our outline. Now we go to the next paragraph, the third paragraph, and I found here that by looking, of course, there's words here, because don't forget now I'm prioritizing. I'm trying to find the pros and the cons, and when I read the greatest strength of Wiki, that really indicates me that this is a pro, not a con. And when I went through, I established that Wiki could be better than a regular encyclopedia. And I'm connecting my knowledge now to what I know of Microsoft Encarta Encyclopedia Britannica, and it would be impossible for them to hire professionals in their fields for every single article or item in their encyclopedia. So here I've written WikiInfo could be from competent professionals. Therefore, it has more users than other encyclopedias. And now we're going to the next paragraph. And let's see. Very interesting. Here's another professional that actually went into Wiki and found that there was an article in his field, but it had problems. So he took the trouble of going into Wiki to actually improve the article. But also says there could be problems because even though he's fixed the article, someone can always go back and change it and make it incorrect again. So, okay. What we have here then is a pro and a con, right? First, the pro is that Wiki articles, and this is what we're after. Remember, our purpose is to get these pros so we can summarize them. Wiki articles can be improved by specialists, which is a good thing. But improvements aren't always permanent due to unregulated contributions, which means anybody can go on there and add information back onto something that's been fixed. And of course this would make it a problem again. So here we have a pro and a con that we're going to want to put in our outline. And I've prioritized that I need pros and cons. I've connected with my knowledge about encyclopedias again, and how this could be an improvement. And I've put it into my own words, as you can see. Now in the next paragraph, we're going to establish pretty quickly that this is a con. And I can tell because, once again, academics discredit the site for several reasons. It's definitely going to be a con. And as I go through here, I actually realize that this paragraph is quite valuable, because now I'm prioritizing and I see that this is full of cons, so I'm going to be careful to make sure I get all the cons here. And I'm going to try and put it in my own words. And at the same time, I'm going to be thinking about what I know, connecting with what I know about Wiki. So now then, in the beginning the author said we're going to find out why Wiki is bad. Let's see. So we go through and we can see that contributors aren't always experts. The editing and content aren't always perfect. And there's a problem where students using Wiki avoid the problem of having to read long articles. But this is a problem. Students don't have a chance to engage with academic articles. And finally, there is a problem where Wiki has what they call vandalism of articles, which means people are either making funny contributions that are meant to be comical, or other people have actually, public figures and politicians, changed the article and get rid of anything that makes them look bad. So then we go to the next one and we see that I'm going to have to scroll down a bit here too. Whoops. So all this needs to be highlighted and we can get going here. That'll do. And this is very interesting because now we have other researchers saying that even though students know that this is not going to be able to use Wiki won't be able to be used in their research and research writing, that they continue to do it. And here we have another con, because if students use Wiki only, they're not learning to critically evaluate material and incorporate scholarly articles into their research, which is obviously going to be a problem. So there is another con, which is kind of repeating what was said in the paragraph above. So that's redundant, and we may not need to put this into our summary, but we'll put it in our outline anyway. And then we come to the second last paragraph, and even though this is an argument essay, we're seeing that both the academics that contributed to this article agree that when students do use Wiki, it's easy to tell. And so therefore Wiki essays or Wiki citations are not acceptable. But it also mentions that Wiki has links or footnotes, and they could actually lead to something quite valuable, which is kind of a pro. But this pro actually, because don't forget, we're prioritizing, we need the pros and the cons, right? And it's interesting because even though there could be links and footnotes that could be valuable, they need to be evaluated, because Wiki content can be wrong. So it's very interesting. So now we're coming near the end of this article and saying, well, Wiki could be okay. You can't really use it in your essay or your research. But with a critical mind and thinking about who is contributing and not really knowing should make you wary of using that information. But the links could be okay, but once again, you're going to have to evaluate them. That might mean looking to see if the URL is a .org or a .edu or a .com, which could be dangerous. So let's go to the last paragraph, and Again, this seems to be a pro, because the one of the academics that contributed to this article says that the approach employed by Wiki, in other words, by having multiple contributors, now this is my own words I'm transferring into, make the articles more objective. And that's, I'm using, connecting with my knowledge, because I know the opposite of subjective is objective. And objective is usually factual, whereas subjective could be opinions. So once again, this academic is saying, yes, there's some value to Wiki, but students have to use critical thinking. Now then, I'm going to try and navigate my way back to our PowerPoint here, and just bear with me here. We'll get back there. And just hold on here. We'll be there in a second, with any luck. Whoops. Okay, now you can see we're at the point where we can take our annotations and start to create a summary outline. I'm sure most of you know that before you write essays or anything, having an outline is a really good idea for so many reasons. And in this case, it's not only going to help us organize our pros and cons, but it provides a medium where we can see, like I said, to avoid repetition. And now we can see what we want to put into our summary. Because don't forget, in summaries, generally speaking, we don't want to have details. So people's names and who, in other words, the people that were quoted in the article aren't necessarily important to have in the summary, even though I'm sure they're very nice people. We don't need to mention their names. So as you can see in this summary outline, there are no details. But don't forget, in some cases when you're reading, especially for if it's totally different than summarizing and you're reading for a multiple choice essay or exam, you would be looking for details. So you can go through here and see what I've done for each paragraph. Now, and I've labeled all the pros and cons. And now I can actually start to think about writing this summary. And in this case, I'm going to follow the original organization of the article. You could actually change this and do it argument style and put the obviously there's more cons than pros, so I'd put the pros first and then attack them second with the cons. But like I said, in this case, I'm just going to follow the organization of the article. So now we begin, like I said, the summary writing. And we've established that definitely the text structure was an argument, and there's more cons than pros for Wiki. So we have to keep this in mind. We've prioritized that we needed to get pros and cons and establish that maybe Wiki is kind of dangerous resource to use. And we're going to go through our summary outline to eliminate any repetition. Short is best, and we don't need details, like I said. But before we start writing, we're going to have to write the summary first sentence. And in summary writing, there's kind of a rule, where in the first line of the summary you mention the author's name, the article's name, perhaps the source, but also you have to finish that sentence with a one-sentence summary of the article. And this will really tell you whether you got the big picture or not. And I think you've already got the big picture that there are more pros and that there's more cons than pros for Wiki. But we have to try and put everything we've discovered in the end part of this sentence. So rather than give it away, because I want you to try and practice with this, I've given a general article, a general example using an article I just thought up. And here is an example of a summary first sentence using the summary first sentence rule. Smith, that's the author, in his Guardian article, that's the source. VIU sensitive to international students, that's the title. And here comes the summary sentence. Claims that VIU assists students with language issues, academic acculturation, and culture adaptation. Now you have to think for yourselves how you would write that summary sentence. The author's name is in the APA. The Guardian article's title is clear, and what you need to do is write up that sentence yourself. Now then, we have a challenge, because we're not going to write that summary sentence or the summary for you. We've given you our paragraph annotations in the outline. We've shown you how to write the summary's first sentence. Now we're challenging you. We want you to try and write the first summary sentence with your summary sentence, and then use our annotations to write your article summary. And it's not all for nothing. When you're finished, why not make an appointment using the English language support email with Matt or I to come and check your summary in 255-211, or you can make an appointment in the Writing Center where people would be happy to go over your attempt at summarizing this article for you. And I hope that this has been useful, and thank you very much for listening.